Our gang is sexy. Let's wrap up BCS, Baptism by Fire. Well, I've always known that, or always heard, or whatever, where Kasserine was a rollover. I mean, I don't. Most of the desert, like I said, I only know Rommel. Or the Italians went across, then they got pushed back. Then Rommel went across, then he got pushed back, and then he had to abandon Africa Corps and was pulled back to Europe. So, all in all, the Axis nations got stomped. Um, Not much Italian forces in this one. There were some, but they're not very present. They never got into the action because of where I was trying to move them. But plain and simple, you can see it right here. I already wrote down the victory points. Exiting things never happened. Germans only gained 5. All right, how did this happen? Well, at one time they had 6, 7. So they had 7 at the most. They were probably going to get. Actually, they had 8, so that would have been. I think it would have been a draw, or a wash. But just put it this way: 34th Infantry Division got stubborn. 1st Infantry Division came on and drew out or threw them out over here. The Germans had actually had that victory location up here underneath this 1st Infantry Division. So they came on an A, so I brought them in up here. They got lucky because their action ranges aren't nearly as strong as these guys. So you really got to get some lucky rolls. So that means a lot of suppression artillery, trying to get assists in there. First ID carries, well, they only carry 1. Let's see, yeah. When you had air using air, and the Allies aren't very, very strong on their air power in this fight, but it was enough, and they threw DAC out of there, which I was amazed I even got that far with DAC, and they were fixed to their. I should have moved that. I didn't move that last time, so they would have moved up here, there, and they would have been out of. They would have been. And they were ghosted and not optimal anyhow. So that was a. I don't know. Should I pull DAC back around and then come up on the back end of Shoot and Stank Off? Shoot and Stank Off were doing a pretty good job, but Welvert, he got in here and he just got shattered. He's got stuff scattered everywhere. Nick's brigade, he got a coordination, but Nick's brigade, these 2 armor units were capable of coming here and stopping Shoot and Stank Off moving forward. So they did their job, and they held on to this victory location right here. So there was another point that the Germans had and lost. All right, so that's 2 over there. They did keep everything in the valley from Kasserine up through here. All right, and like I say, we drew Le Kef victory condition, and I wasn't quite in position to do that, so I had to push hard, and apparently it wasn't enough. They still hold the center of the map. All right, no big deal because they didn't get enough victory points. 34th Infantry, they rolled down in here, and once again, they had to do attacks where they just had to use everything they could throw with assists and artillery and whatnot to push the Germans out, and they did, and they held on to this. Actually, threw the Germans out of it. No, the Germans never took it. They stopped them right there. And then the 1st Guards was moving across the map, and they just about to go out of. They didn't need to move. So they just stayed put. They had drove, who is this over here? Reinman, they drove him out of there. He was sitting there. I didn't think he'd ever get touched, but I took a risk and moved the 1st Guards down there, and he dealt with them. Pushed Reinman all the way back over here to this victory hex over here. So, yeah, just not enough left. Not enough, so to speak, gas in the tank for the Germans to take those victory conditions. They, like I say, the troop quality, they definitely had the advantage in that. But, some lucky die rolls by the Allies and stopping, the Germans on their 2 major approaches here and here. And then over here on the flank where, like I said, I probably should have brought DAC back around. But DAC was closing. They were going to get up here and take these victory locations up in here. And it just ran out of time. Just couldn't push hard enough. Couldn't get enough of DAC in. And, of course, Stark came back on the map, and he he cut them off down here anyhow, so they were going to have to try and deal with that. Well, that's what I was hoping the Centauro division would come up in here and deal with them. So there you have it. You got to love BCS. I know there's a lot of you out there that love it. I know that there's a lot of confusion sometimes with the way this thing plays, but mastering the MSR stuff and the snafu rolls and mastering your types of attacks you have or engagements, whatever. These armor units, these hard armor units, these yellow units that have a red AV, you can get a lot out of these guys. You can get a fire engagement followed by a shock, and if you do a fire engagement before the shock, you're going to get a +1 because you fired first. Or you can roll up in there and provide 2 fire engagements, and then you could still assist if an infantry unit rolls up in there to do an actual regular attack. Engagements, they're hit or miss. I mean, in order for the 34th, or the first, I'm sorry, not first, Welvert, he had, let me find him. I had assigned the tank destroyer unit, this tank destroyer unit to him when he came on. And I'm like, you know what? I got to use him. So I went down there and took a couple pops at one of Stankoff's armor units. And I think I chased him off, actually. But this guy suffered eventually 3 A1s, and he was done. I mean, 3 losses, and then he was pretty much done. So, but he did his job. It was sacrifice, but he did his job. Rommel is a big help in this game when you get him on the chart here and you assign him to a unit. They get a plus to their snafu and their second activation. All right, so that was help. So, and then another thing you need to keep in mind too is on your cards there. Once you go beyond fresh, you can never go back to fresh fatigue. 0 is the best you can get. So once you lose your fresh status, you're never going to get your fresh status back. So the best you can do is go back to a status of 0, which is okay because then you don't get a minus die roll. But you got to have that optimal distance. You got to have non-ghosted trains, because I'm amazed at the number of failed snafus I got just because of a -1 and I rolled a freaking 3. Which is, it's kind of rare on your dice to roll a 3 or 2, but I had quite a few of them actually. But hey, what can I say? The Allies, the Brits, and the Americans, they hung on long enough to keep Dak, Rommel, and the boys from attaining their objectives. And somebody had said in one of the comments that it's a thing of movement as fast as they can go. And I thought I started that way, and then I might have slowed down a little bit, thinking about trying to recover fatigue. I had some decent fatigue rolls though throughout the scheme. I got admit it wasn't as disastrous as I thought. But I think I slowed down, and I should have kept pushing, because the Axes, they have some marvelous hard red AV units, and they can just hit and hit and hit and hit. And a lot of them start with a strength of, some of them start with 6, some of them start with 5. The only big boo-boo I made was doing a freaking engagement with this guy here, and he only had 1 step. And I should have had him, like I said, I think I talked about it before, but I should have had him on this side where he had range, and I could have shot at a distance, and I wasn't paying attention. So he got smoked in like the first freaking turn out, and I was like, oh boy. And of course, he's part of Reinman. So Reinman, he put his support unit into support status because it's red AV, and the only thing he had on there was that mobile infantry. And he wasn't going to, even with an action rating of 4, he wasn't going to be able to deal with the first guards coming down through the desert there. All right. So let's wrap this thing up. We're going to move on to something else now. I really want to continue with BCS, and I need to. But Hexy, he's always got something in his blood that needs to do. So I'm not really sure. Tomorrow I'll make a decision on what I'm going to put on the table. Maybe I'll just do something completely off the wall and odd. Maybe I do Civil War. Maybe I decide to go ahead and continue with BCS. I don't know. But we'll get something up on the table. Let's get this posted. Allied victory at Kasserine. Baptism by Fire, Battalion Combat Series. And we'll talk to y'all with the next one. See ya.